Rangers 78-79 season is going to take place now.
And here comes the drop. Free puck. Rangers have it. Dave Maloney gets it. Not clear. 12 seconds to go. Scramble for it. Islanders extra skater. Gillies tries to put it in front. Duque in the sideboards. Can't clear. 5 seconds to go. 4 seconds. It's in front. Rangers will do it. It's on. The Rangers win the final. The Rangers win the final. And up on the board, we're number 1. Dennis Potvin, what a portrait. My God, look at that.
A great competitor, a great team has gone down to defeat. They led all the teams in the National Hockey League, and now you will see the ceremony of the shaking hands at center ice.
Hey, welcome to Flashback Sports with Gil and Dave. I could watch that about 25 times in a row. Yeah, we didn't go into 80 to 83 after that, but just a great call by Gordon. And then before we get into our topic today, I want to wish my nephew James a happy birthday, my niece Francesca. It's been a while. A lot of things are going on, Dave. Our topic today is, what do we say, great seasons, dream seasons, nightmare endings. So that was for the Islanders, but it propelled them. It helped them lose a couple of those tough series. It made them tough and made them champions later on. But Bill Chadwick, I thought Bill Chadwick was going to have a heart attack too. I agree with you, Jimmy. I didn't think he was going to make it on that one.
I literally think he said Rangers win the pennant. I'm not sure if he was. I thought that's what he said, and that was a great shot of because that was right. Islanders lost in '78 to Toronto. Tiger Williams, that crew. And
they beat up the Islanders.
He was standing on his head. Mike Palmetier.
I think it was Roger Nielsen was the coach of that Leafs team.
Well, yeah, it was Roger Nielsen.
They boomed it up. I think
that's a great. Is that a great shot of that Pod fan? Yeah. All these guys just slumped over. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Because that was 2 years in a row. They were great.
I know.
The following year, they didn't have as good a record. They wound up winning the cup. Took a little pressure off. But that's kind of the theme of the show. Great seasons. Lousy endings. There's a lot of them. We're going to cover a few of them. Some of them are obvious. Some of them are not so obvious. But we'll kind of get to it. We want to jump in a little quickly. If Big Core is backstage, because Big Core's got to get to the Philly game tonight because his wife Linda is a big Philly fan, and the only one who's can intimidate Big Core is his wife. So we want to jump in, get his opinion, right? Right, exactly. So
yeah, right. My ball team's on the other side of the state, but hey, the key is domestic tranquility. So I'm rooting for the Phillies all the way, fellas, all the way. It's good to see you guys. It's been a while. It's great. It's great. Well, listen, I want to jump right into my topic, and I know you guys have a lot of different squads and teams, but the one that I know Gil and you can both appreciate, well, maybe not so much because you were around, but I certainly can, is the 1960 World Series where the dreaded, fearful New York Yankees come to town to play my Pittsburgh Pirates. And in a best of 7, a walk-off home run secures the victory for the Buccos. Your Yankee team that year had Mickey Mantle, had Whitey Ford, Yogi Berra, Roger Maris, Elston Howard, Bobby Richardson, Moose Skowron, Tony Kubek, Bobby Shantz. You were loaded. My brothers and I were just fearful that we were going to get swept by scores of like 80-1, 50-1, and it was going to be the worst experience, fall, winter, going into spring in our lives, because we had read so much. We went to the library, our local, because we weren't, American League fans. We didn't know too much about the American League, and so we went to the library and read up on the Yankees, and of course all these players and. Oh, goodness. And the history of the franchise, my brothers, we just were like, holy cow, how are we going to beat these guys? And lo and behold, we did. I just,
Yeah,
and I will say this.
when you
I
say
always say this categorically.
right, that series that the Pirates won, I think when the Yankees won those 3 games, they
Oh.
crushed them. It was like they were outscored
Double digits.
tremendously, right?
Every
Oh, it was
game they won by
ridiculous.
yeah.
16-2, 14-1. They just killed them.
Yeah.
But I will say categorically, and being a Pittsburgh fan my entire life, from the time I was in first grade till right now, that home run by Mazeroski is the greatest moment in my life. It far surpasses Franco Harris's immaculate reception, anything Mario Lemieux has ever done, anything that's been done by Crosby. I will go to my grave with seeing number 9 run around third base with his hat up in the air, going like this. I just like you Jet fans are going to be going like this.
Yeah,
that is what I'm going to remember the most of all my Pittsburgh experiences. And whenever I'm with my friends, my era, that moment surpasses every other, because no one expected the Pirates to win that series.
That was a great Yankee team, and actually Maris, everybody remembers Maris in '61. Maris won the MVP in '60 also.
Yes.
And obviously in the '61 season, they won the World Series in that. It should have been 60-61. A lot of people think that '61 Yankee team, when you consider the depth that they had, talk about Barris playing left field, they got the 3 catchers who hit 20 home runs each, basically. Pitching staff, they had it all. A lot of people think that '61 team is amongst the greatest baseball teams of all time, and it was essentially
they beat the Cincinnati Reds. They swept them right out with Frank Robinson and Vada Pinson, and that was a good team they beat. Obviously Frank Robinson was a great player.
The Yankees also had Clete Boyer, who was a very good defensive
player. Third baseman. He was a terrific third baseman. I mean, I know Elston Howard was the primary catcher because Yogi Berra was in.
Johnny Blanchard was the third guy.
John Blanchard was the other. He was a lefty. I remember he was a lefty. He hit a home run over the right field fence, and one of many in that ball. And that was the other amazing thing about that World Series. The winner of the MVP of the World Series was Bobby Richardson.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think he still might be the only player on a losing team to win the World Series MVP.
He is the only player to win on a losing team, and in the history of pro sports, there's only one other guy that was the MVP on a losing team, and that was Chuck Howley in the Super Bowl for the Dallas Cowboys against the Baltimore Colts. Chuck Howley won that.
So big court at Game 7 when it was going back and forth. What was it like? A bad hop hit Kubek's throat?
Hit Kubek in the throat. And I'll always. This is many years later. You obviously you remember that Kubek went on to become a NBC commentator and journalist. And I can't recall exactly what World Series it was, but Stengel was in the box seat somewhere. It was probably something the Yankees were doing or something. And Kubek went over to interview him. And Stengel looks him right in the eye and says to him exactly, "Did you ever get over that bad hop that hit you in the throat that cost us the series?" That's what he said.
You remember who hit?
Kubek's standing there like this. No case.
Do you remember who hit the ground ball?
Wait a minute. Was it Hal? No, it wasn't Hal Smith.
I think it was Bill Verdon.
Bill Verdon, yes, Bill Verdon. He was the center fielder for the Pirates. Bill Verdon hit that ground ball. Yeah, and then it went on to become a manager of the Yankees. Yeah. Actually came on to become a manager. That's right, Bill Verdon.
That game when Mazeroski, the Yankees tied that game in the 9th inning. Is that what?
Tied the game in the 9th inning. Hal Smith, that's what I was trying to think of. He hit like a 2-run homer, a 3-run homer to give him the lead, and then the Yankees tied it in the top of the ninth, and we said, "Oh, that's the end." Mazeroski leads it off and hits a bomb. I mean, they have in Pittsburgh. That whole, of course, Forbes Field is all destroyed. It's been demolished many times over. The University of Pittsburgh has basically owns that area. So, and the Pittsburgh Medical Center, you can walk into the Jonas Salk Hospital Center, and right as you walk in is home plate, where Forbes Field was.
Really?
You walk in, that's the first thing you touch when you walk into the Jonas Salk Center for
I don't know what he hit.
Yeah. Well, all he did was develop a vaccine for polio, but that's second nature.
Can he hit?
Plate first.
Can he hit?
That's for sure.
Exactly.
And then right behind where this hospital center and teaching center is, out there is the wall in left field. They had the wall right there. They still kept the wall up where Mazeroski hit it over that wall.
Oh, is that right? That's cool.
Over the wall.
That is cool.
It's never going away, fellas. It's always going to be there.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I think that's going to have to go away.
Yeah, you got a couple minutes for first pitch. Any other ones come to mind, Big Core, before we let you go?
Well, yeah. I mean, certainly the Seattle Mariners and that fantastic season they had, and I guess it was 2001. I guess it was, and the 114 wins, 116 wins, something like that. It was amazing wins, and they just got blown out by the Yanks. 4 games.
Sure did.
I mean, I think Pinella was the manager of that Seattle team.
He was.
Pinella was the manager.
Can you imagine that team? Because they lost Griffey, Randy Johnson, and A-Rod all within a couple of years prior to that. Can you imagine if they had those guys, and then they added Ichiro, and then they still had Buhner. They had what's called Boone.
Boone's
the team was loaded. Loaded.
Jay
It's a great team.
Yeah, Jay. They got Mike Flowers, right? They had some good players on that team.
Yeah, actually, on the heels of that, and Core, we'll let you go, but as we're letting you go, maybe we'll have Jack play number 5 on the heels of that comment.
Yeah.
So with a 9-run lead in the 9th, why not bring in the best ever postseason reliever ever? Why not to close it out?
Rivera, a deal, swung on and line to right, charging at Spencer. He makes the catch. A diving catch, Spencer. Ball game over. American League Championship Series over. Yankees win. Yankees win.
Dave, New York needed that in 2001 for them to, even when they played the A's the first round and just to get on, because we were just trying to get over 9/11. And that was a tremendous series. And too bad the Diamondbacks with that little blue pit there, that they couldn't finish it.
Gotta live with that, yeah.
But that was a great season. I mean, I remember, I think Bernie Williams hit a big home run against Arthur Rhodes to tie the game up. It was a great series. I mean, that was really that year was every night you up to like 1 or 2, 1:30 in the morning watching these games, and you go to work like.
Which one comes to your mind? I'll throw one out there, and then maybe we'll have Jimmy in the back. We'll bring Jimmy out. But what do you think when you think of lost seasons? My team's had a great season.
Yeah, I mean, I think of like we talked about. I think. College basketball, I think of Houston. I think of Georgetown in '85, losing to Villanova.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think of, the perfect season with the Patriots, right? Where that season, got blown up at the end. What do you have? Yeah, and thinking of any of those?
I think the most, I don't know, I don't want to say notorious or the most, enigmatic has got to be the Patriots, because they would have gone down as the greatest football team of all time. The only, I shouldn't say the only, they would have been the second undefeated team, but they would have been 17-0 versus the Dolphins 14-0. And they were 18-0 going into that game. Maybe it was a 16-game season. I take that back. Then, so they would have been 19-0. They would probably been considered the greatest team of all time. The way they beat teams, the way that offense was a juggernaut, and they had beat the Giants a couple weeks earlier at the end of the season when both teams got after it, and they beat the Giants at the Meadowlands. And it was a tough game, but the Giants game. Remember, the Giants played about as good a game as anybody did against the Patriots that year. And you said, all right, well, what a chance of them being able to do that again in the Super Bowl. And I think the Patriots are 13-point favorites or so in that game, and rightfully so. Jack, play, as we're talking about, play number 1, because this is kind of play number 2. This is kind of the key play in the whole game that kind of sets up the ending. Play number 2.
3rd down and 5. Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet. Airs it out down the field.
It is caught by Tyree. Inside the 25 and a timeout taken. Oh my God. This ball's thrown and Tyree just goes up for it like a basketball player. Harrison trying to knock it down. And Eli, man, I don't know how he got out of there. I thought he was on the ground and then he came out of the pile and just slings it. That's a great catch by David Tyree. And now with 59 seconds left, the Giants needing a touchdown. The ball is at the New England 24.
Yeah. That's one of the craziest plays in NFL.
It really is.
I mean, Eli Manning, the guy, it looks like he was down there. 3 or 4 guys were grabbing his jersey. How he got around, it was a 3rd and 5. I mean, listen, he gets sacked. It's what, 4th and 20? I mean, the game is probably over then, right? So
that's what's got to kill you, right?
I mean, the catch is, I mean, you can look at that in slow motion. I mean, forget about the immaculate reception. That was like that reception off the helmet is like one of the greatest. I mean, how he went up there, and that guy Harrison he's a Hall of Famer, right? That guy Rodney
Harrison, yeah. And they have the that's what kind of kills you. You lose the game in the dramatic fashion. We'll show the Burris catch at the end, but you lose a game on a crazy play like that, where it's a 1 in the 2 things happen. He gets out of, the great escape, as they call it. He gets out of the sack. A couple guys have their hands on him. Looks like he's going down. And if he gets sacked, it's over. The game is over right now. It's going to be whatever. It's going to be 3rd or 4th and 20, whatever it's going to be. And then he makes a catch. David Tyree, who pretty much, was it wasn't exactly a Hall of Fame, let's put it that way. It's a receiver. He was a off the bench receiver. Makes a crazy catch, circus catch like that. I think that was right before, right after. Was it Asante Samuels who just missed an interception on the sideline too? There's so many plays.
I know
that if you're a Patriot fan, you are agonizing over that till today, because that would have been the perfect season. And then Jack will play number 1 while we're on this subject, but this is how the game basically comes to an end for all intent purposes.
39 seconds left. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
And Dave, in that game, it was about 30 seconds left. There was a Hail Mary at the end, and the Patriots almost caught it. So, when you try to leave as time on it so little, even if it's like, remember 2 years ago with Mahomes when they had like 18 seconds and the Bills didn't kick it off, and then they wound up getting the 2 plays. That was a remarkable ending too. So when you think about all these great teams, like, you wonder how with sports is becoming like the NCAA tournament. Like, like years ago, the best teams got to the World Series, or the two divisions, and you had to win 1 series to get to the World Series. That's why, the Yankees haven't been able to get into that later 15 years, but it's becoming like, look at Atlanta Braves. They were the best team this year, right? Down far, the best team.
Absolutely.
And then losing, and they lost last year to the Phillies. And then, like in football, we saw last year with the Bruins. In fact, if we want to talk about the Bruins, Jack, if you could play number 4, this is probably one of the biggest hockey upsets of all time.
Also this year, too. Yep.
This year, yeah.
Bennett goes down, side of the net, puck is free. Kachuk with Carlo, now Bennett. Verhage shoots, he scores! Carter Verhage did it! Let's go home, baby! The Panthers have shocked the world! The biggest upset in NHL history! 4-3 Florida in overtime in Game 7.
Wow, and that happened this year, having all those points. Oh, they say you get Game 7 at home. I don't think now, Dave, compared to when we were kids, I used to think home ice and home court was a much bigger factor. I saw the series with Houston. I think every road team won, right? Yeah. Against Houston again. I mean, so you never used to see that. I mean, baseball, not as much win every game, but I remember in the early 70s, if you got home ice, like I say, the Rangers play the Flyers and it was 7-game series, every home game was won by the home team. And the Knicks, when they were great with the Celtics, and it's very hard to win road games years ago. So what do we got? Jimmy's in the back. Jack, you want to bring in Jimmy, because he's got a world of experience with all these great endings or bad endings and good seasons. So bring Jimmy back. And Jimmy, how are you?
Hey, good guys. How you doing? I think
Hey,
Gil,
Jimmy.
you're saying I'm old. Hey, Dave. No, but a couple of things you showed there were just amazing. Look at there's more parity in the league, in all the leagues. So that's why home is nice. The home ice isn't as important. But look at Houston now. They lost every game at home.
Right.
In this last playoff series. That I'm not making a mistake there, am I? No, they lost every
all games. Just opposite of 30 years ago when the Twins and the Braves, every home game was won. And by the way, Brian Cashman, we kill him a lot on his show. He's got to get credit where credit's due. Sends what's his name? Who won the game last night? Montgomery brilliantly to Texas via St. Louis to knock off the Rangers. So he can put. Knock off Houston. Thanks, Brian Cashman, finally getting a victory over Houston. So indirectly.
And the other thing is, go back to the Miracle on Ice. I still get goosebumps just listening to it, seeing it, whatever.
Yeah.
There'll never be another one like that because there's no more amateurs playing those sports. When it comes to medals, gold medals in the Olympics.
Yeah. Hey,
what's crazy thing?
What's the story with tell us what you were with the 79 Rangers. Were you were probably a kid like 16 years old?
I was 79. I was 23.
Wow.
I was working, I had a job, and I worked in Queens, and I drove home to Brooklyn, had dinner quick, and then my dad, two of my cousins, and my uncle and myself jump in the car. They drive to Roosevelt Raceway at that time out on the island here.
Oh, to watch it closed circuit. Wow.
They had it in the Cloud Casino. You could watch it closed circuit because we had no cable in Brooklyn. We ran there for every home playoff game during that year. And we'd go there and there was nothing going on but that because the Trotters were closed at that time. And it was enjoyable. It really was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of good times. And they're memories I'll never forget,
Yeah.
But I remember that picture of Potvin just sitting there.
That's a tremendous shot.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, especially considering that, at the Garden, it would only be a few years later, and then it became notorious, with the check and the hit and the Potvin stuff. And just watching, because I grew up on the island being an Islander fan, and watching, and I was like, we've had this conversation before about it. I never rooted again. I'm root from a Ranger fan now. I root for all the New York teams, but so it didn't hit me like, we just lost to the Rangers. It just what hit me was like, again, because we lost to the Maple Leafs the year before, had the best record again, lost to the Rangers. But then what I actually remember most about that is thinking Rangers win the Cup. Rangers beat Montreal Game 1 finals.
Yeah.
And then then they got just then Canadians remember they were the Canadians, and then plowed us. But
hey, listen, Jimmy, you were right about that. I didn't think Chadwick was going to make it after
that. Oh my God, that was unbelievable.
Hey, I listened. I grew up.
He was so animated too. He was so. When you saw him on the broadcast, he had the papers in his hands, and he was all over the place.
They were tremendous.
They were a tremendous team.
And he lost an eye.
What's that?
He only had one eye. He only had one eye. Yeah. Wow. He lost an eye playing hockey.
He was a Hall of Fame referee, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lost an eye, I think, playing hockey. I think that's where it happened.
I love
but nobody. I'm sorry, Gil.
Shoot the puck, Barry.
Shoot the puck, Barry. One thing nobody ever said to him. This is what he said in one of the interviews later on. None of the players who disagree with any of his calls mentioned that he had only one eye.
Mm-hmm.
They use that as you one eye SOB or whatever, like that. And that was respect.
Yeah.
He was a really good referee and everything,
Yeah, he's also a big dude too. Maybe it has something to do with it.
Big guy. He was a big guy. Hey, Jimmy, always a pleasure. I'm happy that you're feeling better.
Thank you.
You're a big part of the show. We're happy you came on today. We want to get in. We got to get some of. We got to get some of Dave's peeps on here.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got to get Gigi on. So bring
Good
Gigi
talking
on.
with you guys.
Gigi on too. Okay.
Great night,
all right, Jimmy. Feel well. Be well.
There he is.
What
Gigi, how are you?
All right, all good.
Where's the wine? Can you bring the camera over to the wine or no? Was that double G? 600 bottles of wine they bottled this weekend. Did you finish them all?
Wow, Dave.
We still have 12 bottles left if you want one.
Hey, can't we do the show at Gigi's?
Let's go.
Can we just move the show to his place there.
Let's go. We get Nicky here to cook. We'll make some pizzas, but Anthony, we're ready to go.
All right. What's going on, Gigi? It's good to see you. What's going on?
All good things. Good to see you guys. It's been a while. Well, I saw my brother Saturday, but other than that, not on TV.
It was very forgettable. He remember I was even there. So.
Well, I remember you were there. I wish I could have spent more time talking. I was a little bit. Running around.
Nice little outdoor pizza oven he's making delicious pizza. The peppers and onions are my favorite, by the way. Wow. So, what game 7 comes to your mind?
Gigi, what do you have coming? What do you have as your biggest memories of a season that went awry?
Well, listen, I'm going to talk about
a season. It doesn't have to be a 7 game.
I'm going to talk about teams that I love that ended the season for, these great teams. Was, the Jets. The Colts were 13-1 regular season. They were a 112-point favorite going into the Super Bowl, and the Jets dismantled them. The 73 Mets, the Big Red Machine. I think that was
that's a good one.
Very good,
the 73 Reds. They were the team to beat.
They're great.
The 69 Orioles. Who was going to beat that pitching staff? I think they had 4 20-game winners.
The 70 team did it. Yeah, but they had the same staff basically. They were a much better team, but and they had a great season.
The 70 staff had the 20-game winners, but so those teams, you hit on all the big ones. And Jimmy talked about, and it wasn't a regular season, but the Russians came here, they dominated everybody coming up to the Olympics, and then the Miracle on Ice. I mean, I think that was probably as big a
certainly the biggest upset, and the Mets are probably. Mets obviously had a terrific pitching staff. 69 Mets lineup. I don't care what anybody says. Was anemic. It was just you had Cleon Jones and everybody else, and no one else would have even been a starter on an Oriole team. That's how big enough that was.
They got hot at the right time. Listen, they're pitching.
Anemic is too good of a term for what that.
Being generous,
Art Shamsky and Ron Swoboda and
Ed Charles, Bud Harrelson, right? All these Ken Boswell. I used to like
the 2023 Yankees, that lineup, I think.
I know, but Gigi, the
23 Yankees would have 27 Yankees compared to that team.
But you know what? The other big thing about that team with 69 was Don Clendenon. He was a big. When they picked him up, he gave them a legitimate hitter, and he hit, I think, 3 home runs in that World Series. Don Clendenon.
I'm pretty sure he had 4 home runs in the 5-game series, or maybe it was 3, and that was.
But he was a good. He had a sweet. I remember him as a kid. He was a good hitter. I mean, he was from the Pirates. Too bad Big Court didn't talk about Don Clendenon. He was a big old
the hammer.
But Don Clendenon was a good. Hey, listen, they had Seaver Kuzman and Nolan Ryan came in the bullpen. I mean, they had some. They had some Gary Gentry. They had some good pitchers.
Yeah, they did. And the 73 team, no comparison to the Reds of the 8. Almost beat them both.
The 73 team was maybe more pathetic a hitting team than the 69 team. They lost.
Well, you had Staub. You had a little bit.
Willie Mays in center field, who he was on crutches.
Don Hahn, Wayne Garrett, right? But you had what's his name was a good player. You had the Rusty Staub was a really good hitter.
But he was injured. He didn't play in the World Series.
Yeah, he did. Remember, he had to throw the ball underhand from the outfield. He had like a separated shoulder or something like that. He couldn't throw the. He couldn't throw the ball. It's when men were men. It's when they didn't sit out with the hangnail.
He played with a separated shoulder. Rusty Staub.
But what's the only team in sports that had the best record in their league and didn't play in the playoffs? Didn't make it.
Best record.
Was that a
best record?
Didn't play in the playoffs.
Montreal had the best. The Yankees had the best, but the strike
1981 strike.
The 94, the strike 94 Expos. They had the best record in baseball, and they canceled the season. So they
and the Yankees had the best record in American League that year.
That was a loaded team. They had.
It was. That was a loaded team, and that they were never the same. They kind of dismantled that year. Actually, Yankees got John Wetland after that '94 season. The Yankees got him just in time to blow a couple games against the Mariners. Just sent them back to Montreal.
Well, and the Mariners got what's his name from Montreal.
That's right, Randy Johnson. And
Randy Johnson.
Was that? I think that was the Langston trade, right? Is that the Langston trade?
I think so.
Yeah, that was the Mark Langston trade. Yeah, crazy stuff. Those are good ones. Actually, I didn't even think about the Mets over, particularly the Reds. The beating of the Orioles though is because the Orioles were loaded. Orioles probably should have won at least four World Series in that. They won 2. They probably should have won at least 4.
Well, they lost 2 7-game series.
They could have won more. I mean, they had the pitching staff was loaded. They had power galore. You know, they had Frank Robinson.
And GG, they might have had one of the greatest center fielders, Paul Blair, fielding. You know, I've talked to people who said they never saw Paul Blair have to dive for a ball. That's how good of a fielder he was. And I remember him on the Yankees.
Mark Belanger was a phenomenal shortstop.
And Brooks Robinson, the whole
hit worse than Bud Harrelson.
Wow. I saw a stat recently that I saw a stat when Brooks Robinson died that he was, I think, defensive WAR had the second best defensive WAR of any player ever, and the guy with the best was Mark Belanger. So good luck getting a ball through the left side of that Oriole. That's the other thing about that team. That team. That's why I think I always talk about the Big Red Machine. It's the best lineup, best offense and defensive team maybe. But the Orioles had that offense, defense, and pitching. That's what I mean. That team was just had loaded. Every aspect of it. There's nothing they couldn't do really well. That's why even winning 2 probably wasn't enough. Because Palmer was a kid when he won his first one. He was 1966. Right. By the way, another thing about Palmer, I saw him the other day when Brooks Robinson died. Not the other day, a couple months when Brooks Robinson died. Guy's a stud. Guy looks better at 80 than we looked at 30. It's like I hated him. I hated him then. And I hate him more now. But
he looked like a teenager when he played in his 30s.
He's unbelievable. Go look him up. I said, when was this thing taken? He's talking about Brooks Robinson dying. I was like, oh my god.
The team,
and
I know. Dave, the other team I thought of that was a really good team was that A's team that lost to the Dodgers or the Cincinnati. They should have won. I think they won 1, but they were a big dominant team that didn't win.
The A's.
The A's from the 88, 90.
They won the 89, but that was
they won 89, but they lost to the Kirk Gibson, and then they lost. Cincinnati swept them.
Should have never lost to the Dodgers and the Reds. They should have won 3 in a row. Absolutely, that team was loaded also, no doubt.
But GG, in 2 weeks, our show will be in your basement. But we're going to move our thing. We're going to go on location.
Listen, please bring it on. Bring it on.
Actually, we'll do that one night. We'll go on location.
Hey, GG, stay well. All right. It's good to see you.
See you guys.
I see you, bro. Later.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Who we got now? We have anybody? We have I think Matthew and John. These guys, young guys, are going to talk about what are they going to talk about? Brian Cashman. Here they are, Matthew. Is Batman and Robin or
using technology to their advantage? You know what?
Who's the Riddler?
John don't want you to know where he's at right now. That's why. I don't know. Matthew, I'm not sure, but John does. You don't need to know.
So tell us what's going on, guys.
Good. This is exciting because you have all. I know you mentioned the email. This is like the only time of the year you have all 4 sports happening simultaneously. Yes. So it's that's fun, cool. And it's important, I guess. Beginning of the seasons for NHL, NBA, and then will be postseason Game 7. So it doesn't get much better than this.
Yep. And Philly's down 1-0 that Jimmy just said, which means there's going to be a lot of pressure. That game goes deep. It's a close game. All the pressure on Philadelphia tonight. And that usually translates into the bats. The bats going cold. A little pressure at the plate. So anyway, what do you got, John?
Yeah, crazy what's going on right now with the Diamondbacks. I mean, in a Game 7, I mean, in a year that they had 84 wins, I mean, that's unbelievable. The Yankees, in comparison, had 82 wins. It's only 2 wins better than the Yankees. It just goes to show that if you get hot at the right time, I mean, you could really make a run at it. It's unreal.
Yeah. Tommy Pham bats 3rd on that team. That's all you need to know about the Diamondbacks. How it's just shocking to me that they're 7 innings away potentially from winning the NLCS. That's amazing. So I never heard of most of the guys on the team. I mean, Marte's an excellent player.
Guys, what's going on with the Jets and Giants coming up? It's a big game now. What do you think is going to happen with that game? And what do you think is going to happen? And Aaron Rodgers is going to come back next week. I heard, right? Is that what I heard? Isn't Aaron Rodgers coming back?
It's coming back.
We don't need him. That's Zach Wilson. Come on.
Yeah, big game this week. I think. Look, if the Jets are a legitimate playoff team, they have to win this game. I mean, no disrespect to the Giants. Giants aren't probably as bad as a 2-5 record suggests they are, but I mean, the defense is really solid. The Giants. It's not going to be an easy game for the Jets. It really isn't. It could be a trap game. I think it's going to end up being close because both of these teams don't know who to score touchdowns. So it's going to be a sloppy game, and the Jets better win this game. It's a must win for them. Must win for the Giants too, but more for the Jets.
One thing I will say about the Giants, the Jets, I think the Jets can kind of afford to lose it because their schedule, I think, is kind of easy the rest of the year. It's must win for the Giants, but I wouldn't necessarily call it quits on the season. For the 7th spot for the wild card right now is currently going to Tampa Bay with 3 wins. For comparison, the Giants have 2 wins. They're 1 game behind in the loss column for a playoff spot. I think at this point, the Giants have not proven at all that they're deserving of a playoff spot. But they're not totally out of it. To give up on the season, to sell pieces at the trade deadline, and their schedule really eases up. I think with a couple wins, you could be looking at a contending team very quickly. But it starts this weekend against the Jets, against kind of an anemic offense to some extent. They can't really pass through the ball. So obviously the defense is really it's a stout defense against also a terrible Giants offense. So, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring matchup. But hopefully, some key plays. Some good luck rolls against way. I think it's going to be a close game.
I want to see what the over-under is. It can't be more than the mid-30s, this over-under in this game. I can't.
Probably like 40 and a half, maybe 40 and a half.
You think, is it? I'd be surprised if it's out of the 30s.
36.5. 36.5.
Yeah, that sounds probably about right. Because, again, for all the reasons you guys just said, neither team can really put the ball in the end zone. Giants looked like they were pretty decent offensively for the first half, and then they didn't score again. Jets moved the ball. I mean, I'll get your guys' take because last time we were on, we were probably destroying Zach Wilson because he just did not look like a capable NFL quarterback by any stretch. There's nothing that he did that looked like any reason he'd be the number 2 pick in the draft. But he's played better. He's been solid. I think they actually helped him a little bit. They need help more. They need to take some shots in the end zone now. And if he throws a pick, he throws a pick. But you can't be a successful NFL quarterback until you can score in the red zone. And you need to have coaches who have to design plays or show some confidence in you. They get into the red zone. It's like, all right, let's just, they're happy to get their 3 and get out of there. And it's okay because the defense has been great, but the defense isn't going to shut everybody down. It's certainly not going to shut everybody down and become, if they make it to the playoffs. So they got to take some shots. This is a good week to do it because I think, the Giants, the Jets shouldn't give up more than, 13, 14 points to this Giant team. This is a chance. This is a Jet. This has to be a Jet win this weekend, I think.
Dave, I've been watching the Jets for 50-something years. There's no doubt in my mind the Jets are going to lose this game. No doubt in my mind that they're going to lose this game. What's it, 21-7, whatever. Because I know that they're going to lose this game. I don't know what it is. I have a premonition they're going to lose. If they win this game, they will show me that they're on the right to get rid of their pass and try to build something. So we're going to see. Now, last game, I think they got a gift from the Eagles because if they didn't throw the ball to the Eagles, I think they would have lost the game. I mean, really, I didn't think they were going to go down the field at the end. They were a little cocky. I mean, you have to play. The defense made 2 or 3, great returns. Almost returned another one. Listen, I think if Philly punts the ball, the game's over. But listen, they made a good opportunity, and to beat the Eagles was a big win because let's face it, the Eagles are a top-notch team, So, and I think they could have been beat Kansas City too. I think they got screwed with the refs because the refs are in with Taylor Swift. I'm so tired of it. I just hope that Kelsey, just gets hurt or anything. I'm just tired of the whole thing. Taylor Swift. I'm just tired of it. Taylor Swift. I'm just tired of it. It wouldn't be so bad if he tweaked the knee for a couple of weeks. So. This
is starting. We have 2. The Jets were lucky to beat Buffalo because Allen played terribly. In both those games, I was saying the same thing on text. I was at the game for the first game, whereas I would rather the Jets be on defense than actually have the ball. We have a better chance of scoring when we don't have the ball. And it's actually played out to be true in 2 of those games where and it goes to I don't know if you guys watch it, you feel the same way. The clock management in the NFL is a horror show. These coaches stay up all night, all about the X's and O's and how they're sleeping on their couches. They don't see their families. Can you find somebody who can tell time because I would be ballistic right now. Philadelphia gave that game to the Jets by throwing the ball on third down. You run the ball, you get that clock down to close to a minute. The Jets would have no timeouts. They'd have to use their clock. The Jets would have to go, 70 yards without a timeout, with that offense to beat. So that was an absolute gift. Even just throwing the ball was a gift on 39, whatever it was. But then to throw the interception. Same thing with Buffalo against the Giants. And the Giants halftime before the Giants don't score at halftime, the game against Buffalo the week before. Dable's running the clock down the end of the first half like he's running out the game. He's got the ball, and they're at like the 20-yard line. He's at the sidelines waiting to get clock to 30 to call timeout to use his last timeout because he doesn't want to leave Buffalo with any time to score. It's down to 30 seconds. You worry about giving the ball back with 30. You have to score first. He used up his own clock. He leaves up 18 seconds on this. I was saying at the time, what are you doing? You're worried about leaving 18 seconds or 15 or 10 seconds for Buffalo or anybody? Score. You got to take care of business here.
And
Dave,
I agree with that.
Week.
I agree with that to some extent. I think ultimately for Dable there, but I think he timed up perfectly. They had 2 shots at the end zone. What was it, with 11 seconds left? If they were going to take 2 shots at the end zone, passing wise, Tyrod Taylor called a running play. He audibled for a running play.
But he left himself in that situation where he actually could have called a running play had they had 30 seconds instead of 14 seconds. You don't know how many plays you're going to get in those situations. You also you've eliminated your ability to actually run the ball in the last 30 or 40 seconds. So you've taken it just all because you don't want to leave any time on the clock for Buffalo in the event you score. You can't play that way. You have to worry about scoring and not handicap yourself. If you worry about a team going 50 yards against you to set up a field goal in the last 20 seconds, then you're lousy anyway. But and this goes on. There's so many games that I see where it's ridiculous, and it happens all the time in the NFL.
Dave, the Jets did that against Denver at the end of the first half. They wind up the clock. They're on the 5-yard line, and the clock was that's inexcusable for an NFL.
Yeah, and look, I think the Jet scenario was on Zach Wilson. That was on Zach Wilson. He has to show. First of all, you don't make that throw. You have to throw it to the sideline or to the end zone. You don't make that throw and have it throw to have a chance to stay in bounds for the clock to run out. And after the play, there's no urgency to snap the ball. Just nonchalantly, the offensive line was, very lackadaisical. Zach Wilson, the only guy wanting to snap the ball was the guy who caught the ball, Tyler Conklin. He was rushing to the huddle. Other than that, Zach Wilson, that's on him. That's a mental mistake. Yeah. And after that happened, I went to smash a window. That was so disappointing. It was terrible.
I'll live with with a physical. It's like when you're. Because you got to plan for these things. You can plan for how to use the clock. If Zach Wilson, in that case, chokes and or Tyrod Taylor chokes and does the wrong thing, it's inexcusable because it's a mental error. But when you're like standing on the sideline counting down the clock, it's just like when you have time to actually think about these things, and you should be thinking about them in advance of plays because that's your job versus a quarterback who's got to maybe make a split-second decision on an audible or even throwing the ball. But again, there's more coaches than players, and none of them can actually figure out how to use clock at the end of the games. And you see it almost every close game. There's just every week you see multiple mismanagement, and they're not even debatable issues. This is nothing. And I could think of probably 3 other times where it's just like kind of made me crazy.
You said you're afraid to leave 25 seconds on the clock. You kick it off, it starts at the 25-yard line. Your defense has 50. They can't not prevent a touchdown, 75 yards, or even a 40 or 50 yards to get a field goal. I mean, what kind of defense is that with no time on the clock? I mean, think about it. It's like inexcusable. It's like these people are throwing Hail Marys up, and you can't defend that. I mean, where's the coaching? Like you said, now I'm going to tell the other thing. That Eagles game, I don't think the Eagles should have let the Giants score. That running play. Jets? I think I would have helped.
I thought you said but you said the other week that they should have let the Jets score. So.
Well, they were cocky.
Now you're trying to say
what they were going to score.
Which one was that?
Remember what the Eagles?
When Breece Hall, people thought Breece Hall should have went down before scoring. I don't think so. I think he should have scored. I think that you take a chance with a touchdown.
I think you score. I just think you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. You could fumble the ball.
Exactly. A fumble.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like how great all the ex-Yankees and Mets are doing in the postseason.
Chapman. Chapman, Jordan Montgomery. I mean, it's so sickening that Chapman was up on that stage, celebrating a pennant there. Jordan Montgomery, I don't know why the Yankees let him go. This guy is a big time pitcher now, and watch, they're probably going to sign him for $150 million in free agency to get him back, and that's just a big loss. I don't understand it. How Cashman stole a job after that one. Really don't get it.
Chapman, the only way he was seeing that game last night was with an 8-run lead and against Jordan Alvarez, because he hits everybody anyway. So even if he walks him or hits him or something like that, as it was, he gave a base hit, but he wasn't seeing that game. I would never trust this guy in the spot at all, ever again. And,
I'm going to tell you the other thing that move that was made in that game that was excellent was Bochy taking out Scherzer because he was going to crap the bed again, and he took him out right away. And I'm going to tell you something. We talk about all these analytics and all that. Look at the guys that are in there. Bruce Bochy, old school guy. Dusty Baker, old school guy. Robbie Thompson. I mean, these guys are old school baseball guys. So maybe the Yankees should start thinking about maybe all these analytics don't work. You know what I mean? Because it looks like they're using analytics, but they have a feel for the game. I don't know. I feel like, I'm happy the Astros lost. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with any Boston team. I'm not big on the Philly teams either, but Boston loses, Houston loses. I'm happy. I'm happy about the Jets, at least at 3-3, at least something to watch. But I'm very nervous about this game. And unless maybe if we could get Joe Namath to do a little bootleg, at the elbow, that was the last time they played. Well, what does Matthew think about it? He's very quiet about the Giants and Jets.
I don't know about this game. It's not it's like a game that the Jets should win, but it's a game that the Giants have to win. So it's an important game for both teams. I think they kind of match up. They're very similar. I would say the Jets are a better team, but they match up similarly in that the offenses are kind of incapable right now, and the defenses have done a really good job this year. So, and honestly, the big separator might be the special teams. The Jets probably have one of the best special teams units in the NFL right now. Honestly, great punt returner, great kicker, great punter.
Yeah,
the Giants must have the worst because they muff 2 punts every week. So
always an excellent field goal kicker.
So they don't do kickoffs, they don't do punt returns, they can't punt, they can't kick, they don't have a gunner. That's the separator, honestly.
The Jets also have more playmakers, both on offense and defense. And until Thibodeau becomes a defensive force on a regular basis, Giants desperately need him to be a stud. And if he doesn't, because they're just not.
He has 6 sacks.
He's been better.
He's been solid.
Yeah, he has been better, and hopefully that's a little more consistent. Which Claude hasn't done too much. The ex-Jet.
Leonard Williams has done nothing. Yeah, he hasn't been.
Yeah, he's done nothing. But they need guys like that. The Jets have been making, they've been making big plays, a lot of plays behind a lot of scrimmage, getting to the quarterback. A lot of different players doing it. They're, hopefully, I don't know. I assume Sauce is back this week. I don't know what Reed's situation, but they played with
him and Reed. Yeah, they're both still in concussion protocol, so hopefully they could get them back. But look, they were missing both of those guys against the Eagles. I don't really understand.
That was amazing.
I think will come out of it. I don't know. It's very befuddling. I don't know.
They had to buy. This is honestly concerning. You concussion for 4 weeks.
But they haven't had practice yet. I'm not gonna get concerned until they're out in practice. I think they'll be limited tomorrow. I think they'll be back. Hopefully,
you guys, with the topic today, what comes to mind since you guys are young? What comes to mind with a team that you think had a dream season but ended badly? What comes to mind?
Last year. Boston Bruins last year. They had the most wins in the NHL, and they lose in the first round in Game 7 in overtime to the Florida Panthers. That's a letdown. You just made you made history winning the most games, and then 2 weeks later you're out. You're out and you're back at home from the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think that was expected to go to win the Stanley Cup Finals, and they were the heavy favorite, and they lose in the first round. I think honestly that's probably on top of the list. I know it's recent, but that has to be on top.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, let's say one thing about that was. Big point.
Continue.
Yeah. I was going to say on that the Bruins, and I love the fact that we're talking about the Bruins, losing in the first round overtime. Not as shocking because I think hockey, any year an 8 can be the 1. It's not like basketball, but it was actually I loved it. The fact that they got knocked out, the fact that we're talking about the Patriots, as great as they've been, one of the great. Horrific endings to a great season. The other thing that before your guys' time, really before my time too, as far as being a fan, is the Celtics team of the '73 season is, despite all their championships, the Celtics have had, that was actually their best record that they ever had in NBA regular season when they lost to the Knicks in '73. So I love the fact we can talk about, the Patriots, the Bruins, and actually I'm sure we could find a Red Sox season too. That just 86, whatever it is, but where they had a great season. So, but three of those teams that came to mind were Boston teams. I was happy about it. Anyway, go ahead, Matthew.
No, I looked at it from a kind of New York perspective, and I couldn't help think of our own Yankees. I mean, what did we think in 2017 when the Bronx Bombers era started? We thought this was going to be a dynasty. Multiple World Series wins. They didn't have a single World Series appearance, and I think the window is closed because everyone's getting older. Honestly, there's no payroll opening up. The team's not going to really get better this winter. We'll see. They'll make some they'll hype up some minor adjustment. But the team's not going to get much better. It's getting older. There's going to be some really bad contracts in a year or two. And quite frankly, I'm not just they missed the window. They botched it all. And for people saying too that the Astros, it's a dynasty, winning 2 World Series in 8 years or 2 World Series in 7 years is a dynasty is ridiculous. That's not a dynasty. Just had to say
Agreed.
that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's close though. It's close.
Dave, you were
it's a great run, but
it's a good team. It's a good historical team.
Go back. Gigi in the back said 2001 Rams. I forgot about that team. So thanks to Gigi, brought that up. And also, when you talk about that '73 Knicks team, they had a great team. The Knicks. I think the Knicks won 57 games. So I know that Boston won a lot, but that was the first time the Celtics lost a Game 7 at home, and that was with Clyde and Monroe and Reed and stuff. And honestly, I'm going to tell you something. I think if Reed did not hurt, if he was not injured, I think they would have won 4 or 5 championships, the Knicks. So that's how good that team was. So and the Yankees, it seems like the same story. We got people analyzing stuff. As much as George did a lot of impulsive things and George did some bad things, but George wanted to win, and this whole thing with Hal hiding behind an audit and stuff. I mean, we want as Yankees.
Yeah, come on, that's
him to come out and say unacceptable, make some changes, get rid of GM, do something. Him just going to, I think with Hal is that the shareholders love him because they get bigger checks. George, every dollar he went back into the team. So I don't know how he has his appearance. He doesn't want to be like George. George wasn't perfect, but you can be a little bit like George. George wanted to win. I don't know what Hal's plan is. Let's look at what we're spending. And you know what? Now, I was told that the move for Stanton was not a Cashman move. It was more by Hal. So that's why Cashman hasn't been criticized. That cripple line now, right now for the Yankees, if they don't get rid of Stanton this year, they at all costs they have to get rid of him, and that means eating 0.5%, 2/3 of the salary.
Yeah.
But the Mets did, they have to get rid of him. Stanton has to go. I don't care what anyone says. The guy, that's my opinion, and that's where he made a mistake getting Stanton and not get Harper. What Yankees on Yankee Stadium need to be lefty power and need to have left-handed pitching. I don't know why they went away from their strength for all their history. You have to have a little lefty. But that's my opinion on the rent of the Yankees. I don't know how Cashman and Boone are back again. It's like I don't know. It's a La La Land. It's almost like Groundhog Day. We're gonna have the same team. We're gonna have the same big contract. We're gonna have these guys coming up. Our lineup is pathetic. You got guys playing cleanup at 190, 210. Horace Clark is like a superstar compared to these guys. Seriously, this lineup. We grew up in the early '70s. Guys were batting 250, and now look at the guy batting 250 today. He's a superstar. The lineup. Would have 2 guys batting over 260 in the whole lineup? That's an embarrassment to the Yankees.
It's bad.
It really is. I don't know what else. I think I ranted enough, but I'd love to see Cashman.
No, they're gonna get. No, but look, I'm excited that you're not excited for the audit of the organization this offseason. It's gonna change a lot of stuff.
Last year they brought in.
Who's doing the audit? Cashman?
Boone Corporation.
I think they think the fans care about an audit. I think they just do things to appease. Because a year ago they brought in Lou Saban from the Giants. You had the great Omar Minaya. So they brought in baseball people to whatever, be advisors. It's utter nonsense. And maybe this is just Hal admitting it's on him because maybe he doesn't fire Cashman because maybe he does tie the purse string. Maybe, and then ultimately you can't even say if you don't fire Boone last year, you can't fire him this year because the players were terrible this year. And they, like you said, John, they won 84 games. They had a winning record. They would have been 1 game out in this American League Central. They had 2 less wins than that. So despite that, maybe this is, his way of, basically acknowledging the fact, okay, well, I don't really let this guy do what he wants to do, but I hope they see from the way some of these teams are playing right now and some of their signees but they weren't going to fire him. They just signed him.
Yeah, no, I just hate when Brian Cashman continuously just preaches that the playoffs are a crapshoot. The Astros have made the World Series 6 out of the last 7 times. I mean, it's not. I mean, if you have a great team, if you draft well, it's better than a crapshoot. That's total bull crap.
It's better than a crapshoot, but I have to remind people that what Houston did for 2 or 3 years leading up to that was tank. They have by far the worst.
No, you're right.
Horrendous. Yeah. So they did tank for that.
So
the Orioles tanked to get their players they have right now. We don't tank. We're sick, but we don't even play below 500. So there is some of that. But part of it is just.
They wouldn't draft well if they tanked anyway. I have no confidence that they're going to suddenly find a superstar. They haven't drafted a pitcher in 30 years. So, I mean.
It's more about the signings than I think the Yankees banked on, and it looked like, and Cashman looked like, and I was with Brian Cashman in 2017 singing his praises because he looked like an absolute genius at that time because we had Aaron Judge who was on a rookie tear. We had Sanchez who just came off in 2016 where he had 20 home runs in 50 games. We had Didi. We had this guy Clint Frazier who's going to be a stud because we got him in the Miller trade. We stole Gleyber Torres from, in the Chapman.
From Chapman,
all those things. Everything was brilliant. The team got to the ALCS when no one had thought they would get anywhere near that year. It was a rebuilding year, and everything cratered since then. Sanchez thinks Gleyber's average.
And Dave, honestly,
not even an ages.
That year, Girardi did not deserve to be fired. Yankees did not deserve it. Girardi had him 1 game from the World Series. He should have been able to stay with the team. They said they didn't like him. He was hard on the plays and stuff. Look, Boone's supposed to be a nice guy. Who cares? Honestly, I don't care about Boone. He's a nice guy. I know he's a nice guy. You know what? If you're going to, address this thing, have the analytic guys take the questioning. Seriously. Boone is a nice guy, but let's face it. Everyone, we know a lot of guys that are nice guys, but whatever. But listen, guys, it's been a pleasure. We, at the end of the show here, we're hoping for a good World Series.
Jets better win.
We're hoping a good season for the Knicks and Rangers. And St. John's, I think, is going to be good. And the Jet Giants, we'll talk in 2 weeks, and we'll see who's right. And if you guys, a good show on Current Sports, it's called Empire Sports of Mind, no? Mind of Sports.
Yeah, you got it. The first try.
What? I got it right?
You got the
first try.
It's a great show, and they've even had me as a guest, unfortunately. And they said their ratings went down, Dave, when I went on. Minus 2 people watched it.
A special thing before we get a special thank for Jack backstage who jumped on
Jack,
this show in the last 48 hours. Appreciate it, Jack.
Yeah, great job. So, Jack, end the show in number 3 and 7, and wish everyone a good night and enjoy the World Series. And let's hope things in the world get better too. Peace in the world, right?
Sounds good. Night, everyone. All right, guys, have a good one. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too, guys.
Go Jets.
Go.
It's down to 7 seconds. You can see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, that's a long ways. They won it. On the dunk. Blank look of Jerry Tarkanian. Will his team rise to this challenge with 12 seconds to go? Jim, I think you're going to see the ball in the hands of 2 people. Anderson Hunt, Larry Johnson. And in the case of Duke, I would take the chance and say, don't try to grab a rebound, bat it long, because you can believe UNLV is going to send 5 men to the boards. Larry Johnson brings the ball up. Looks like he wants to go all the way with it. He's outside now, stopping his dribble. Leitner on him. Hunt will have to do something. Three. Off the back of it. Long. Hurley's got it. Duke has done it. Duke has upset UNLV.